So good morning, good evening, and good night. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is an episode for the month of September, which is going to be a crazy month because there are going to be so many retrograde planets, and that is only priming us to the October eclipse. So we are continuing in the crazy, and it's not really Mars day, Mars hour, because it is night, and so it is Saturn night. But Mars is the ruler of the ascendant. Saturn, unsurprisingly, is the ruler of the midheaven, and it's in the 12th, so it's not a pre-elected, as you can see, but we're going to try to navigate this. Luna is in Scorpio, applying to oppose Jupiter in Taurus. Sun is applying to oppose Saturn, but I know Mercury is stationing already, and it's only going to get wilder than this, so I'm going to record this episode today and right now. Yes, my readings, my books are attempting to be open. I know I've been unappointable for a lot of time, and I'm trying to see if I can change that. And funnily enough, when Mercury was stations retrograde, but the way I go about this. So first of all, what kinds of readings do I give? Natal chart readings, and what's coming up for you. So basically, if you have a question, it's usually perfected for you, either by eclipses, by perfection, or by both. What do I look at? Your natal chart. You're gonna have to have your birth certificate. I don't need to see it. It's just that you need to have it to know what your birth time is exactly, because I don't know how to do rectification. So this is not a service I can offer to you. And if you want me to look at the houses, which gives me more understanding as to what area of your life is going to be triggered, going to be emphasized this upcoming year, then I'm going to need to know that. That's the astrology stuff. But other than that, I look at your chart. I look at what is perfected for you. So what area of life is most accentuated this year, and this is especially upon your solar return, upon your birthday, and the first month of your birthday is going to be the most accentuated. Then it's going to have certain levels, but still it's an ongoing theme. Okay, if you're in a fourth house perfection like me, and granted that you're not about to die, you might be thinking about relocation, or shaping the house differently, or growing the family, or reconnecting with your ancestors, your family of origin, ancestral healing stuff. So your questions are probably going to have to do with those things anyway. Okay, what's coming up for you as a question is usually timely. Okay, I also look at the outer planets to inner planets to see sometimes what you experience personally is in the spirit of the time. Okay, let's say you have a relationship and you're contemplating divorce. Then immediately I will look if it is a Mars thingy, severing ties in your 7th house, or if it is a Uranus thingy. And if you have natally a Uranus thingy in your chart, anyway, this issue is going to come up for you, so we can chat together and see what can be done, what is needed, and liberate your view about relationship, and understand that there is a spirit of the time. So let's say maybe you are non-monogamous, so you might want to get to know people who are non-monogamous or be activist in some way. Maybe you're revolutionizing something. Maybe you're an astrologer. Okay, and that affects your particular house, wherever it affects. So inner planets to outer planets is something that I look at. Where is the eclipse cycle? Is something that I look at. What does it mean for you that Rahu is going to be ruled by Mars and Ketu by Venus with the Aries Libra axis? What does it mean for you? What is changing? What's transforming in your life that is like, from God? And that is something that I definitely look into. Because I don't do rectifications, I'm not looking at zodiac releasing like other astrologers. This is a great, fantastic timing techniques, but you have to be on the minute with the ascendant. Otherwise, I'm just looking at like a crumbling tower of cards that is built upon illusion, and I want to be more concrete with you. So those type of things I will look at. Solar return, yes, I can look at this if you ask me to. I will look at it together with your natal chart, especially if it's around your birthday. Then of course we're going to take a look at this. It's also useful in addition to things. And then it depends on your question. So it depends if it's your midheaven, if it's your relational stuff, it is abundance. I'm not a financial advisor, but we can look at the more holistic aspect of wealth and what wealth means to you. Well-being, again, I'm not your doctor, but we can look at the holistic meaning of your body and soul, basically. So outer planets to inner planets and the north and south of the moon are also evolutionary perspectives. Okay, so where is yourself coming from and where is it going? I cannot tell you what you were in past life. I don't know. Okay, I can invent some cute stuff if you like, but but that's on another type of yeah, but I can tell you where is the soul heading. And of course, if you have very big transits in your life, let's say you are around your 40s, you have a Uranus opposition or a Pluto square, or both of them together. If you are going through your Saturn return right now, if you're going through Sadhasati, which is Saturn conjuncting your moon, and the almost equivalent to that is Saturn opposing your moon, which is also quite a transit, then there are certain things that we can look at, for example, rocks, and how you can use raw crystals and rocks. And I'm saying raw because there's more chance for you to get them ethically sourced in this way. So those are types of things that I do look at. Now, how do you pay me in a situation where every second they can make the coin different and international accountancy is like crazy? Is very simple. Okay, I can give you a list of things that I would like to have. So certain, for example, rectification course, or a certain talisman, or even talismanic courses that I would like to have, and you can simply order one of these from me, and of your choosing and of your ability to allow yourself, and I can give you a reading. Another opportunity that you can get a reading with me, and that is you go on Twitter is Strudel Tali Shear, and the Shear is with double E, and Tali with I and Shear double E on Twitter, and I continuously post to people that are in need of medication and housing. If you donate like at least $300 per each, then I can give you a free reading. So you just have to show me the print screen that you donated, that they got the money, and we can appoint a reading. So you're already doing planetary remediation. You're already doing planetary remediation for your Saturn, especially if it is out of sect for you, which I also look at, if it is more problematic, less problematic, and for Moon. Okay, Moon is housing, Saturn is people who are homeless, and one of these people is also Oh, both I think are neurodivergent, and one of these people is also, I think, gender non-conforming. So if you're looking for Mercury or Uranus remediation, that is already in within when you choose it, when you do it like that, because you're basically doing charity. You're donating to a person who um, is involved with the rulership of these planets. Okay, so you're already remediating this planet even before you came to me. Now you ask if I'm doing planetary remediation readings. Well, every reading is a planetary remediation. Otherwise, that would be just me telling you, well, you're going to die at age so and so from that and that ailment. Goodbye. that's, that's not what we're doing. So any reading is planetary remediation. Can I prescribe to you talismans? No. Can I give you hypothesis that you can experiment with? Yes, if you are good. Okay, if you understand that this is what we're doing and it's experimental, then I can try to do that. Um, but what I will not do is not give you the name of a brand, not because I don't want to, but because I'm not doing that professionally, and a lot of these brands do hire people who do that professionally, and I don't want the brand to be damaged by me giving you a wrong, diagnosis or something like that. So it is possible, but you have to show to me that you are experimental and that you're willing to think together with me and understand the concept. It's more advanced. Other than talismanic remediation, there is planetary charity, which is a concept by Christopher Warnock that I can refer you to Warnock's site to look for the remediation for the planets that you need remediation. Absolutely. Now, after I made all this great introduction, um, big introduction, I need to work on making it more concise. But hey, I'm trying to open my books here and do it in a way that is beneficial for myself and the world. Let's go to September Astro forecast. And September. So this is a month that a lot of the astrological community, this is 12 minutes for those of you who are doing the thingy. And by the way, if you are doing timestamps for me, just make sure, write to me before to make sure that I point this to you. Okay, give one reading to a person who is doing the entire timestamp for one video of me. Okay, so this is also a way to get a reading with me. It helps the channel, it helps the people who are watching forecasts, and it makes it more accessible for me to do this because I cannot alone. I can do it alone, but then I would be frustrated and bitter, like the beautiful person who is doing the nurse thingy with the black under eyes. So, September. It's one of these months where the astrological community has been looking at for the entire year because we're going to have most planets retrograde. We're going to have yeah, we're going to have, I should do a jolly non-serious forecast one day. Mercury retrograde until September 15. Venus retrograde, and she goes direct on September 4, but don't be too jolly because Jupiter goes retrograde on the same day. And then we have Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto retrograde. Okay, the nodes are always retrograde. Chiron retrograde, Aries is also retrograde. Thank you, Astro Catherine, for pointing this out. She's the only astrologer that I've seen talking about this, and I'm just happy whenever Aries is mentioned. So that's a lot of the sky giving us the illusion that we're going backwards. Just from looking at this. And this is a good time to give you a bit of a timeless teaching on retrogression in this introduction. Because retrograde is kind of like revising. Think about when you go direct, you glide smoothly. But when there are bumps on the roads, what happens? One, you can get frustrated. the F is going on, why are we not moving forward? Why is it taking so long? And think about having to find a document in your house that you don't know where it is. So you have to go through your entire paperwork, where you put it. And not only that, you have pets in the house and you have children in the house. Maybe someone ate it, maybe someone threw it away, maybe someone hid it in the fridge. You know, I had these pictures of children hiding a $100 bill in the garbage can. Okay, this is real. The struggle is real. Okay, this is a retrograde motion, not just for Mercury. And so you go over your things, you go over your memories, you go over your clothes, and then you're like, oh, this we need to throw away. Or this, oh, that, I was looking all over for this. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't even know that exists. Okay, I can give you a couple of concrete examples. I wanted to do taxation, which I, by the way, didn't even do until now. But hey, my country is going through a religious revolution. It's like, it's all crazy. And I was looking at the bank statements for my bank account. Then I found out that A, I can't look at all the bank statements. I have to order them. And B, I'm paying VAT for every payment that I get, even from the Kranken payment. Okay, because I'm recovering from trauma. So even when you get welfare, you pay VAT. And so just by looking at those bank statements, I was like, oh, damn. Even this is taxation, okay? So this was kind of like, oh, there's a thing that I looked at. There's this thing that I looked at. Another non-financial observation, a concrete example like this, maybe Facebook suddenly shows you a post that you wrote a year ago and you just remember, oh damn. Yeah, but something non-mercurial, you know, we have the exes coming back, which is still lasting, or beliefs, things that you believed, memories. Oh, I once believed that, I don't know. Oh, when I was a young girl, I believed that I will work and it's no problem. I will work and I will buy my property in cash. Where is the problem? Why are my parents so worried about me having an apartment? I will work. I mean, you know, and then I will pay and I will buy a house. Why are they so worried about what will be with us financially? And understanding that, hey, like, revising, remembering this, rethinking about old beliefs, old worldviews. Okay, this is Jupiter retrograde, for example. Uranus retrograde. Oh, once upon a time, they used to make revolutions. Okay, this is my Uranus joke. Or suddenly remembering, oh, Nicolas Stoyanovich, oh, his trick, when a client would come in, he would look at their Uranus from Placidus housing system, and he would say, let's say Placidus in the night, oh, you come to ask me about studies or traveling abroad or about your worldview religious perspective, huh? And the client say, how did you know that? Uranus, the planet of astrology, is in your 9th house, Placidus. That means this is why you came here. And just remembering these tricks and tips and things that maybe you didn't use in a while, that's a retrogression, okay? Retrogression is also, why do you have to bring this up again? Okay? Had an argument about labor with someone, and it kind of triggered all the wounds and all the traumas that I had with, like, when I was not doing astrology. I was suffering a lot, and everybody around me was suffering when I was working, because I have Uranus in the 10th house. I'm going to make a revolution everywhere I go. And my bosses are extremely at risk for this, because I'm going to rebel against my boss wherever I go. So, and not only that, when they give me the boot, my mother would laugh at me, you get the boot upstairs. Okay? Those are the type of things that you remember. It's like, oh, damn, Why did they have to remind me of all these wounds and all this dredged up? Chiron is retrograde, okay? And Chiron is reminding us of old wounds that we have, okay? That those things that get the inner Hitler out of us, even if we are third generation or second generation to that war, or that Holocaust to be particular. And so those are retrogrades. Now we are not scheduled to move forward. We are scheduled to dredge up a wound and poof, release it or accept it and honor ourselves within it. We are scheduled to recheck our values, if it's Venus retrograde, but also our worldview, Jupiter. We are scheduled to rethink revolution. To rethink, what is a revolution? Do you need money for revolution? Do you need this for revolution? How do you practically do revolution? What about the fiscal situation? What do we want to achieve? Okay, what are our goals? Uranus retrograde, or the usual paperwork stuff and trade, or children. Okay, what is having a childlike spirit? Mercury retrograde is also about children. And we are scheduled to rethink, to revise, and there are all kinds of things popping up, coming to remind us, oh, that was bothering you. Oh, that is still going on. Oh, that is a thing you haven't looked at. And it can also be skills that we have. It can also be ideas that we have. Oh, you were thinking to do that when you were 12 years old. What happened? Come on. Get your finger to the paper. Get your finger to the keyboard. Start writing. Okay? And those things, it is actually a great time to have an astrological reading, because this is a time where things come up. Where something comes up, then you schedule a reading. Yes, the timing of the ring, there can be delay here, delay that, so, but you have to be smart, okay? You have to be, if you are like punctual, everything has to be punctual. I'm not going to be like this with you, you're not going to be like this with me, because when it's all retrogrades, things are going to be rescheduled. And this is okay. But then when the actual reading happens, the things that need to dredge up are going to dredge up. And now it's time to look over, to reflect. This is what we do in a reading. Okay, this is important to understand. So the entire month of September is going to be this deeply retrograding month. All the outer planets are retrograde. This means we are rethinking. Look, before I even started to look at any chart, okay? Before I even started to look how much I have to say about this month. We are rethinking Pluto. What is power? Power, powerlessness, a transformation finding our power. What is rejuvenation? What is composting? What is Pluto even? We're rethinking Pluto. Is it a planet? Is it not a planet? Do we want to look at it from evolutionary perspective? Do we want to look at cell regeneration? I just realized that Pluto is retrograde. Oh, Pluto is also poison. Okay? And of course, when we had the Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction, we had tremendous amount of spreading of poisoning. Okay? What is Pluto? When we think that Pluto is sextiling Neptune for almost a century and is continuing to do so, Neptune is about leaking stuff, is about no boundaries, is about surrendering stuff. So if Pluto is nuclear energy, we understand that at least as long as Pluto sextiles Neptune, nuclear energy is going to leak. Not by the merit of exposure, Pluto, but at least by the merit of Neptune, lack of boundaries. It doesn't matter if you use it to fuel a city or to bomb a city. Okay, it's going to leak. And what does it give us? Cell regeneration mutants. So cell regeneration that is uncontrollable, there is no boundaries. The cells grow. Cancer. Okay, but not only cancer. Then you think Neptune is also about healing holistic view of things, spirituality, and also drugs. Okay, so rethinking drugs. We are rethinking what is the effect on drugs, what drugs are good for us. Maybe some drugs that they told us this is very dangerous can actually be good, and some drugs that told us this is safe, this actually can kill you. And it's not just the vaccinatie. Okay, vaccinatie is not, it's not a bad name. This is how it's called in Dutch, is vaccinatie. And I can't, I remembered that now that Mercury is stationed in retrograde. I remember the name, it was vaccinatie. And and there is no more literal description than that. So we are rethinking these things. So we said Pluto, we said Neptune. Now we have, Saturn is retrograde. But before Saturn, Uranus, we talked about revolution, revolting, changing. Astrology, we are rethinking astrology. There was a very, very wicked Twitter user, I don't remember the name, that said, let's trigger the astrological community with one sentence. And they said, sidereal astrology cannot agree on the house system. And I was like, this is the housing crisis again. So for those in the astrological community, that we know that we recently had this thing. Now it's dredging up again. So Uranus retrograde. It's not retrograde yet, but it's, or is it? It's about to station retrograde actually on the 29th of August. And so rethinking astrology. What kind of astrology is useful for me? What kind of astrology I can't stand? What I like astrology in general. But it's kind of like rethinking stuff. Okay, for example, I think that zodiac releasing is amazing. I don't know how to do rectification. I can't offer you zodiac. I can be a smart person, say, you can do zodiac releasing, look at yourself. But if I don't know when you were born for 100%, and I need to be exact on the minute, I can't offer you this service unless I make a big fool of myself, which I'm neither above nor beneath doing, but it's just useless to do it for this, right? There are other things that I can provide. And there are great people who do zodiac releasing readings, like Kyra Ryberg. So, yeah. And we are also rethinking still Saturn. Saturn is still retrograde the entire month. Saturn in Pisces. There's a great mini lecture of Saturn in Pisces. I think his website is up again, by Patrick Watson, that he did Saturn in Pisces. Wonderful. I don't know how much he charges right now, so it's also very not expensive if you're looking to buy something that doesn't take that doesn't put you in debt. Then they have a great video, so I won't spoil for what the value that they give. But you can also look at my Saturn in Pisces that I did, actually in response to, it's kind of like a challenge that I took upon, and you can just look for that video. It's probably about half a year ago, and it will give you more and more. Of course, Saturn is time and Pisces is weird. Saturn is boundaries and Pisces is weird. Saturn is structure, Pisces is weird. Another thing you want to look on a mundane level about Saturn retrograde in Pisces that's ongoing is the channel of Dan Waits, that truly explored the cycles of Saturn, Neptune, and Russia. And you say, but what has Pisces to do with Neptune? I'm not going to argue with that, okay? This is not, or you can argue in the comments below, so it will boost up the algorithm and I will get more views. So we are rethinking, of course, still Venus until September 4. And you must understand, when a planet stations direct, which is of course an illusion, they continue to go around this shade period of when they stationed retrograde. And it's still ongoing, okay? And so we are still having in Venus, until Venus ingresses into Virgo pretty much, we are still, and then she will of course oppose Saturn. So we are having a very heavy-duty Venusian reevaluating, acting upon a revaluation So do not marry this month. If you can reschedule this, it's good. Or make an alternative ceremony if you're marrying, so to make it in another date. But we are still reassessing our values, our relationship, our patterns of desire, our relationship with matter, okay, with tangible things, our relationship with the justice system, with laws, Libra, with finances and trade. Of course, Libra rules trade. Ah, ah. I had a moment because I have Venus in Taurus, so I think about her in Taurus, and I had a funny moment. But anyway, we are still in that Venus retrograde thingy, and Jupiter is going to go retrograde the day Venus goes direct, and Jupiter is still ruled by Venus, is still in Taurus tropically, and so we are going to think our worldview in relation to our values. So you think about philosophy of aesthetics, you think about philosophy of beauty, moral philosophy and aesthetics, okay, uh, form and essence, um, philosophy of matter in general, philosophy of sensuality, or all the tantra stuff might be coming up. Um, Philosophy, and of course we will be rethinking also children, because this Jupiter fertility, Venus and Jupiter, we're going to be rethinking perhaps our higher education system in relation to Venusian things, okay? So women in higher education, how much money does it cost to have higher education? Okay, during the Venus retrograde, I think I had a non-PC statement that said, I was talking to a person who's working as stripper, and I was naively stating, well, nobody talks about it. Like it is actually a very deep skill to be able to be embodied while you're doing erotic dance that's supposed to arouse people. And I meant it seriously. Like it really is difficult, okay? And nobody is talking about, like, people kind of shame or have stigma about sex workers, but nobody's talking about that you can't really have a degree and pay for it by yourself if you're not doing one of these jobs. It's highly inaccessible to you. And nobody's like, but if God forbid somebody mentioned it, so that stripper stopped talking with me. but this is also rethinking the cost of higher education, rethinking the connection between sensuality and getting a degree, basically higher education, academia. So we are going to be kind of dredging up, kind of bringing in those themes as well. Art, artistic, higher studies of art. We might be rethinking the value of art, the world philosophy around art and artists, and that can include, well, when we think about artists, then is it the artist and the crazy person? If one of these is ruling your 12th house, so the crazy person and the artist, or the Nazi leader and the art, or Nazism and art, or how important it is for people to make good living out of art, because if they turn to be frustrated and go to politics is a big problem. And all these jokes coming up again, especially when now Venus is still squaring Jupiter. Is easy to see, but we're going to be rethinking these two. And we are going to have the Mercury retrograde, which we talked about, but it's going to be in Virgo. It has a good thing and a bad thing. Mercury is strong in Virgo. Mercury retrograde is simply mean that the good side is you're going to find out what were the details, Virgo, that were missing from the picture, Mercury. But those details are going to be highly significant. Okay, so if you're missing a document, it might be a very necessary document. With the trine to Uranus in the beginning, it may be that you have to have a revolution to get this document. You have to revolutionize something to get this document. Or you have to make a bit of an upheaval or some eureka around this, or there's some, yeah, so some windfall that allows you to get this document. Okay, it can be, for example, in a relational context, because Mercury retrograde is kind of like another wave of the ex coming. It's like those exes that didn't contact you with Venus, now you got Mercury. Even if it's not a ruler of your seventh, like in my case, Mercury retrograde is definitely going to bring us like, are there any exes left that didn't contact me? Yes, yes, here we are coming, Mercury retrograde. And there are certain words that might not have been said, or words that you said that you forgot. Then, for example, I love you, marry me. I'm single, of course I'm, you know, but it doesn't have to be lies. It can be there are certain things that you said that you completely forgot, or certain things that you didn't say, or certain things that weren't said, and those tiny minute details, they change the whole picture as to your relationships. And that can be, I don't know, it can be confessing about being gender non-conforming, because Mercury is also gender non-conforming. And so you're like, oh, I forgot to tell you I'm like this, you know. I'm not so straight. So it can be something like this. It can be a discovery that something, I don't know, that somebody was married, somebody was cheating, or something like, I don't know. Oh, I can give you one thing. When I was in my first degree, the last, and I met a person, they were from a country that was enemy country, and so, but they said to me one thing. They were Christian, but Catholic. And they said to me, listen, but they were very open-minded, pro-LGBTQ, like really, really very impressive person. And they were saying to me, listen, I don't care whatever you want for ceremony, for wedding, I don't care, whatever you like, but please, only for me, even only 5 minutes that we have a ceremony in the church. What he didn't understand is that this means Catholic marriage. And that is very problematic for a woman's rights. So it's not that I have a problem to walk into church, but if it's Catholic wedding, it means, like the Orthodox Jews, is very problematic. You are basically in the hand of the religion, you can't divorce, and all kind of really weird stuff. So from his very perspective, it was like, oh, only, you know, even 5 minutes just to be in the church, because God plays such an important role in his life, and in a good way. It's actually rare to see people like that. But for me, that would mean Catholic marriage. Of course, that was not possible. So it's not that I don't want to. It's not that for him it's like a small consideration. Those type of things can come up. Those type of things. Maybe you're about to wed someone, and they tell you something like this, and you're like, that basically takes all of my rights from me. Those 5 minutes that are so important for you is take all of my rights from me. Okay, maybe we can go to a church. Maybe you can go to a church that is not Catholic church, or a Reformative church, or something like this, or the Oranje Kerk, something like that. I'll marry in the Oranje Kerk. But the thing is that it's those type of things that come up. It's a minute detail that for somebody is like, it's a small detail, but it's very important to me. This is Mercury Virgo. This is Mercury Virgo. Okay? It's that one little detail that changes the entire picture. And it can either make or break a relation. This is why this Mercury in Virgo is so strong, is so potent. You will both have astronomical realizations about yourselves, and how the details play into the situation. I literally got it in the details with the example that I brought. And I tried very hard to bring you an example that's not about relational drama, even though we are with Venus retrograde, but it's actually stuff that can happen even if everybody is okay and everybody likes everybody, that still this detail is very important, okay, for you. Um, or some, yeah, but that is what you're being considering. So Mercury in Virgo retrograde is very strong. It is a home sign for Mercury, and it's a sign where the little a tiny detail can make a difference, so much so that the entire picture looks different. um, and you will have those revelations. Now it depends what house, okay? So if it is, let's say, 10th house, so it's something about your boss, something about work. I gave, even today I wrote about examples, Mercury stations. I had a boss that, yes, he was also doing something with sexual harassment, but it's not the point. I was overhearing a conversation he had with the person who was running security, and he said, I'm looking for a person. I was looking for a person that I mold their personality into what I desire. Okay? And as I was overhearing that, I understood that he comes from a place that I'm not judging, but it's definitely not me. And he was very frustrated with me because I seemed like a person who doesn't have too much experience in the job. He thought he could mold me into his kind of idea of the perfect employee that he was in, which was also his kind of like his paid sex worker, which of course I did not do. So he was very frustrated also sexually, huh? But the thing is that it's a conversation that I overheard. Okay, it can be something like this if it's 10th house, and then you understand why is he being so pissed at you. It's just, I'm not the person that you were looking for. I have Uranus in my 10th house. Can't you see? I'm a rebel. You take me there. Okay. So if it can be something like that. It can be even your 12th house. Okay, your 12th house, maybe you go to a retreat, and in this retreat suddenly the person, some guru, some spiritual teacher says something, and it makes you realize, oh my God, this is a perfect place for me. I didn't even know how good it is for me. Or because 12th house is also lost, it's like, oh my God, I wasted all this money to go on this retreat, and this person is like, oh my God, they're into, oh gosh, I didn't even, it doesn't have to be something like dramatic or criminal. It can simply be like, they're coming from this worldview, I'm coming from this worldview. Oh, they're thinking that. Oh, I didn't want to go to a person that thinks like that. Or, maybe particular type of yoga that you're not connecting with. It's like, oh, I didn't know it's going to be that. It's those things. There's small details, but they are very significant. Okay? So when you understand it, when you realize these things, you can make a very good progress, because now the picture is clear. Okay? And with the trine to Uranus, when Mercury is stationing retrograde, which is right now, but Mercury will be retrograde, and trining Uranus, it's going to be separated from a trine with Uranus and Uranus retrograde. And Uranus is going to be on the 22nd degree from September 11, I kid you not, September 11, until like October something, I don't remember, 20th of October. Okay, over more than a month, retrograde on the 22nd degree of to kill and be killed. Yikes. And so it kind of adds an extra streak of eureka, sudden change. And there is the saying with Uranus that I got it from Mind Valley. It doesn't matter what you think about Mind Valley, this is where I got this from. And And there was some lecture about mindset, and they said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? Uranus. Because what happens with Uranus, both on the hard aspects and the easy aspects, there is a bit of a chaos out of which a new order emerges. And as these things, you're like, good thing, bad thing, who knows? I will give you an example. Mercury station. I went today, as the sun rises, I don't have AC in my apartment because it's only for the weeks of summer. And I'm like, if I spend this money, I can spend it on a vacation, on a talisman, or improving my skills to give you more value, or giving Lizzie some great cat food. Anyway, so when the sun rises, I travel. I took the bus, and then I wanted to travel back, and I missed one bus after the other. And I thought, oh my God, I hope there's no terror attacks, because it's Israel, right? It's the season. But I came to the bus, he closed the door and traveled forward. And usually the bus drivers they pay attention, they see a person, they stop. It's kind of like to the village, they're very nice. But then I went to the bathroom, I came back again. The same thing with another line to where I was going back. And I said, okay, it's not to travel up north because I don't have it scheduled in my budget for today. It's probably to go to my parent. And I went to my parent, and my parent told me, you know what, I was so bored. Thank you that you came. I was so bored. I didn't know where to put myself. And so this was the situation. I stayed there and we talked and so on, and then went back in the evening. And when I went back, immediately the bus was there and the door was open, and now I could come in. Okay, this is that Uranus Mercury. Because Mercury is also public transportation in general. Vehicles is Venus, but the public transportation especially is Mercury. Technology is Mercury. So something technological that moves, that takes you from place to place is Mercury. So it's those type of things that you can experience. Mercury is also humor, so old humor coming back. And look, I did not even look. We are almost a minute. Thank you for the likes. We are almost an hour into this, and I did not even look at the look how stuffed this episode is, how stuffed is this month. Now I want us to look at lunations, okay? And I'm going to go with the moon because the moon is going to take us through all of the things that we need to see. The new moon in Virgo is in September 15. And this coincides with September 15. Oh, Venus already went direct. It coincides with the retrogression. I know there was a retrogression. Mercury would already be retrograde. Venus direct, Jupiter would already be retrograde. Chiron retrograde, Uranus already retrograde. Damn if I knew. But September 15, this is the new moon. It is in Virgo. So what do we have in Virgo at this time? Sun and moon on the 21st degree of Virgo, which means last phase of Virgo. And they are applying to oppose Neptune. We also have a Mercury retrograde. So the ruler of this lunation is retrograde. Now, a new moon is a new beginning of something. Full moon is a closure. This means that you are beginning a cycle of reflection. With the opposition to Neptune retrograde, there is also some sort of it can either be a fated new beginning that's around reflecting of things. So if you are beginning to look over your finances and contracts, you're beginning to arrange your documents before a move, which is relevant for a lot of us. You're beginning to dredge up the documents that you need. Some of it you have to surrender. Some of this you have to, there's maybe a sense of loss involved here. So this is the signal of this new beginning, and it is applying to trine at 22 degrees retrograde Uranus. Okay? On a mundane level, we are thinking the killing involved in revolutions. The killings involved in revolutions, okay? And I'm not talking about death tolls, I'm talking about killings. And we are beginning to estimate, unfortunately it can manifest as going over the data of deceased or murdered people. On a personal level, it means how is it affecting your family and you. It doesn't have to mean that somebody that you know dies. It doesn't have to mean that. That being said, it can bring up memories, some of them ancestral. If it's your fourth house, maybe ancestral. It can bring out how does it affect, or it can also mean a lot of people are dying in, I don't know if Uranus is, let's say, your fourth house. A lot of people are dying in my country. I must begin to pick up the documents and GTFU out of this place so that I will survive, so that my family will survive. Okay, it's also these questions. Now, what do you have around Taurus and the 20-ish, this third phase of Taurus? What do you have around the third phase of Virgo? And to a lesser degree, the third phase of Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius, okay, the entire X, and the Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, okay, where we also have Lilith in Leo. And this very practically means that the awareness of mass deaths that are a part of the process of revolution trigger gathering of information, paperwork, money, means to make money, children, okay, in order to proceed. And there is some surrender to be made here. It can be surrendering the fate of what is going to be in some way, okay? And this is for the next 6 months. So it's relevant for the entire world, okay? We no longer have splendid isolation. And splendid isolation, I don't speak about the United States, actually. I speak about, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway. I think all of them are already in NATO. Germany is getting ammunition again, okay? We no longer have that place that you can retreat to where you can stay safe by going and visiting some forest rather than by masking yourself, especially if you have like panic attacks from masks or so. It doesn't mean that you're irresponsible citizen or don't care about people with immune system disorder. It simply means some people need another way to deal with that. So to be where it's less populated, that it is less and less possible. Okay? it does mean that suddenly we see things like what happens, that we are told this is climate change, but there is also destruction of entire cities and houses, and some of it is climate change and some of it is climate engineering. Okay, I actually had a discussion with a person, and they were saying something very true. They're saying, if you think that climate change is fictional, you must understand that this is also the interest of oil companies that want you to think in this way. Okay, so from his and this is right, but there is also another aspect. The fact that climate change, global warming, what we know as global warming, of course, it is non-linear system, so it creates climate change. Unpredictable climate is occurring. The presence of Uranus in the 84th timestamp for things, I don't remember. I'm always tempted to say either S.J. Anderson or Dan Waits when I think about this. I think there was somebody else that they were responding to. I don't remember, so I don't know if you can have the name of the person who talked about Uranus cycle and the 84th timestamp on, I think, California on Twitter. Then please write in the comments below so we can all give credit. Yes, this also exists, but also I'm one of the people that, as a result of researching natural disasters, there was a sidekick by a friend. We were going to lecturers and we were going to other really a lot of cool stuff, and so I got glares when I talked about the simple notion of the connection between waves, emission, not only of CO2 or carbon, but also methane, for example, and frequency, okay, the intervals of the frequency, and temperature, and all of this as affecting one another. And so I was saying, okay, if we know this regarding natural disasters, then we can not only warn people, we can also interfere the way you interfere in a chaotic system in the system. Okay, I got, the person got white and they were not of light skin complexion. They got white on me. Okay, they fainted. And later I discovered that this is already being used, that it's already being done. I don't know if in the techniques that I offered or not, but I understand that this is already being practiced. And unfortunately, when something like this is practiced, you know, what we would like to hope is for people to prevent natural disasters using these interferences in chaotic systems. But what actually is going on is that alongside such uses, that can also be used for control, for other effects that are more sinister. Okay, and so this is true as well, and we can't ignore this. You might be rethinking now, already now, but it's also in September. Okay, so what do I do? So where do I go? In the past, you could sleep at the car, you find some parking lot or RV park or the equivalent, you go in between the trucks, and just like you travel, you sleep the night, you shower at the gas station, okay, maybe pay a couple of, euros or whatever the coinage, and you go on about your day. And it was a safe way to travel, okay? Me and my family, we traveled like this for 6 months in Europe. When I was a child, I was a teenager. It's a couple of times whenever we wanted to travel, we didn't want to spend so much money on hotels, so we would sleep in the car. In between two trucks was the safest, more safe than the caravans, and showered in gas stations, and voila. But now there are natural disasters and or climate change and or climate engineering, and you never know when is a flood going to strike, when is a fire going to strike. Okay, so it's more difficult. Even our traveling, okay, Jupiter retrograde, our traveling is affected by that, let alone if you have to escape the country, if you have to be refugee somewhere. Okay, so unfortunately this lunation will be tending to this concept in particular. So you might be thinking about a job, how do I get a job? But there's also some surrendering, there's something you don't know. One example that they can give you, concrete example that can occur under disguise too. When I was in Netherlands, I was offered to work for a farm, to look for farms and to work for housing. Okay, I know that this is slavery, but it doesn't mean that they treat you bad. I was afraid of human trafficking because there are many scams in works, especially in housing in Netherlands, and they can be great farmers and they can be a scam that wants to put you in human trafficking. So I was afraid to do such a thing, and also I knew I survived trauma and it would not be fair for the farmers for me to say, of course I can work, and then I would be sick and then I would fall ill, and I'm recovering from trauma. So I didn't do it. Eventually I was returned to Israel, so kind of like denied the rights that I do deserve, even though I'm a citizen. Okay, I have Dutch passport. So imagine refugees that are not European and not Dutch. And the thing is, while after I came back, the lands were seized from farmers, and you can't grow not only cattle but also crops in literally the entire Europe, but especially also in Netherlands. That means that if I would work there, kind of like good thing, bad thing, who knows, if I would work there, even if I would work for the perfect farmers, for the perfect family, even if I would rehabilitate my ability to work as a result of this, okay, perhaps the divine would save me in other ways, but it could be the case that they would have to say, we cannot provide for you and we have to sell our property and we cannot house you. Okay, and then there would be no more shelters because it was no longer winter, but in the place where it's South Netherlands or North Netherlands, it's not Amsterdam, so no shelters, and then you die in the cold or something happens to you, or you don't survive a lot in the streets there, unfortunately. So unfortunately it is the occurrence where something like this happens, but if it's not your time to go, it's not your time to go. Okay, you need to understand that. And there are certain things you're going to have to surrender when you plan this, when you plan those moves, those changes, when there is a certain loss that occurs, or a certain disillusionment, or a certain or spiritual experience that is involved as well. All those things, they can happen. And so this lunation is the beginning of a 6-month cycle that is rearranging contracts, details, words that were said, and surrendering, coping with loss, coping with a certain spiritual experience that you didn't plan. And so it can even be, for example, that you plan to marry someone, and you say, okay, where will we live? Here, there, oh, here is not safe. You know what, here I think is safer. And then your partner is going to some spiritual experience all by themselves, and they're like, I want to retreat somewhere, but maybe they cannot retreat, or it's like you're still going through this, you're still getting to where you wanted, but now something is separating you as a couple, and it's fated. Okay, you were meant to get there together, and you were meant to proceed not together, if such a thing happened. So this is this lunation. It is trining Pluto. This is a kite shape that is trining the Pluto, Neptune, Uranus harmonic aspects. And you have to understand, if Uranus is revolution, and on the 22nd degree is the death toll of revolution by killing, or being killed. Neptune is spiritual surrender or loss or lack of boundaries or viral stuffs. Neptune sextile in Pluto, viral poisoning, nuclear leaking. And you can understand that while this trine can bring about a beautiful transformation to the entire world, it carries some, and to quote Truth in Aspect Astrology, Dick talked about synastries and composites. Even the easy aspects are not that easy, okay, when it comes to the outer planets. And this is true because it's the changes that happen to the entire humanity in this generation. And so this kite shape is creating tremendous change. Various aspects are working together, but those aspects are rethinking the death toll by killing or be killed in revolution. And possibility of this is not by chance. Okay, it's also that. Can there not be beautiful aspects to this? Of course there can be. I can tell you one thing. When the war in Ukraine started, okay, Venus was next to Pluto. The war in Ukraine started on February 2022. And I was going with a friend that I met at the hostel in Haifa. And she was recovering from cancer. I just came back from Netherlands. And we were going to see an apartment that later neither of us would move into. And we were seeing demonstration in the street. And this demonstration in the street was of people that were supporting, I think, both Russia and Ukraine in the conflict, and kind of showing support, showing that we are with you, that we care about this. And that was me. She was Christian Arab. I'm me. But for all this entails, you know. And we were just going there and seeing this demonstration. And it, of course, was a horrible moment. Okay, but there was a moment of beauty that was created at this time. It's like, oh, people do demonstrate, people do care, people do express their care. Also in Israel, and even though a lot of people from certain parts of Ukraine, they were anti-Semitic, they didn't like the Jews, and you know, the conflicts among people. Israel accepted both Ukrainian refugees, both Russian refugees, and there was also something that you look at it. Okay, you look at it and there are these moments within crisis that are beautiful, but you must understand that this is the beauty. With this particular, and Uranus on the 22nd degree, this is the type of beauty that this new moon entails. And I'm saying this not to discourage you. I'm saying this because you know that there is a centering power to astrology. You can call it stoicism, you can call it. I know that a lot of you, not all of you, how distant it is from you, how distant your personal planets from this. Okay? From aspecting this. And I know that a lot of you will be experiencing all kinds of stuff, and you would say, but none of the astrologers that I watch, they all watch and they say, you know, like evolutionary astrology, this is transformation, this is enlightenment, the old structures are falling, you know. And sometimes it's that person that tells you what it is as it is that kind of makes you feel like you're not alone with this. No, I'm not imagining. It really is difficult times. No, you are not imagining. Okay? So if ever it's to bring validation, it's not to scare you unnecessarily, but it's also, if something like this happens, know that it is in the skies. And what should I do? What is happening? Then I want you to think about good thing, bad thing, who knows? About something that seems like a loss is actually a gain. And about sometimes there is loss, there is crisis, there is that pulse, and there is also beauty amongst these moments. There are also moments of humanity, there are also moments of compassion, there are also moments of sharing, there are also moments of grace within this, because there are. It is by the merit of these planets, there are. Okay? So this is that lunation. I will not look at asteroids because it is getting long already, okay? I think I will have episodes dedicated to these lunations in particular and in detail with the asteroids, so we're gonna have probably 2 hours per each. But this is, I do want to get the forecast of this month somehow. So, and by the way, if you are watching now and you're like, okay, what do? I want to get a reading, I want to get this, then it is possible to get a reading with me, natal charts and transits and eclipse cycle and perfection years, and I look at what is up for you. It is definitely possible, and the way to pay me is either to go on Twitter is Strudel Tali Sheer with Tali with I, Sheer with double E, and I share 2 people that definitely are need in assistance in housing and medication. Just show me that you donated at least $300 and you get a reading from me, or you buy me, you DM me on Twitter, or you write your mail here. Don't write your mail here, no. Either DM me on Twitter or write to made to love magic 1 @gmail.com. It will soon change, but right now this is the address, and we can set a meeting, and I will give you a list of things that you buy me one of these, whether it's a course or a talisman of your choice, and I can give you a reading. So this is the way to go about this, and it is possible. Yes, and I look at whole sign house system. I might look Placidus at your Uranus, and I look at some evolutionary aspects, outer planets to inner planets, and eclipses, and like all of the above. And if you have a question, of course, I will look at this question, as it's probably timely for you to ask this question. Now, let's go to the next lunation. Is the full moon, 29th September 2023. And this is the full moon in Aries, 6 degrees Aries. And the sun is 6 degrees Libra, it's an opposition of full moon. Now we have 2 rulers to look at. This is Venus, which is direct on, believe it or not, the 22nd degree of Leo again. And Mars, which is on the 21st degree of Libra, applying to conjunct Ketu. So this is a lunation with the ruler already in Libra, and we are getting very close to the October eclipse, which is just 1 month from the October eclipse. And the lunation is in the axis of the eclipse, which is I don't know if it's the last lunation in this axis before the eclipse, but it's definitely important to pay attention to. Again, Venus squaring Uranus, both on the 22nd degree. And this is a full moon, it's a culmination. So you can understand, if we said that according to Nicola Stoyanovich, degree of kill or be killed is the 22nd degree, is Saturn. We understand that this culmination, on a mundane level at least, is not looking pretty. Uranus is retrograde, but Venus is direct. And this is a very, very excitatory transit to the nervous system. Okay, and those are the days where, first of all, I want you to plan for sudden money splurge. I want you to plan for this. I want you to keep money for this. Why? Because Venus is values. Uranus is spreading something. It's like an explosion. Spreads almost a deadly explosion. Okay, so if you plan ahead and you know that you're going to want to suddenly, or maybe you're going to have to. Okay, it is still summer. Maybe your air condition is dead, and now you have to go someplace where it's like a cafe, where it's like, someplace like this. Maybe, God forbid, there was some explosion and some people died, and now you visit somebody at hospital, so you're gonna have to drive there, and you're gonna want to eat something, or you're gonna have to travel somewhere. Okay, and this is where the unexpectancy of those things that are unfortunately deadly. It can be you're reading about something in the news, or it doesn't have to be you or your loved ones. It can be something that happens in your country. You read about something in the news. You have to take yourself somewhere. You want to watch a show. You want to say, I want to go and see Beyonce today. Again, poof, all your savings go out the window. I want you to plan for this ahead of time. You're not going to get good sleep, probably, if that is close to you. And again, this is not doom and gloom. If it's not relevant to you, it's not relevant to you. But if you have planets around, if you're ruled by Venus, okay, it's going to be relevant to you. And it's the 29th, it's the end of the month. Okay, so especially if you're getting your income monthly and not weekly, and you're getting it at the beginning of the month, I want you to allocate as much money as you can towards this end of the month, because you're gonna need it. You're not gonna sleep too well. You're gonna want to eat more sweets. You're gonna want to take yourself where there's AC. You're gonna want to your car can, Venus is a vehicle. Your car can go total loss. Okay, many stuff, weird stuff like that can go, or there's some train crash or some other thing to do, bombing that kills people in the train. Now you can't go to work by the train, but you can't stay at home anymore. You must go somewhere, even if it's work. Okay? Now you have to, take other means of transportation. You have to reschedule your flight, stuff like that. So I want you to plan ahead. I want you to plan ahead financially. I want you to leave budget. I want you to plan ahead. Think about the night where you didn't get a good night's sleep. Plan ahead to be able to call in sick, or to take a day off if you're employed. I want you to plan ahead, because it's going to be sudden, but we already seen what happened when Venus was in this situation when she was retrograde. Okay? What happened for you? And you're gonna want to think back to that time where you didn't get too much sleep. Maybe you drank too much coffee, or you needed too much coffee. You wanted to spend money. You wanted to listen to some music. There's something you had to get away, to break through, to get away, to rebel, by whichever means and so on. This is this month. Venus is finances, is travel, is music, performance, and Uranus is something sudden, some act of rebellion. Okay, a good way to use this, you're going to see a movie, go see Oppenheimer. Okay, I'm not saying Oppenheimer because there are reasons not to see this movie, but go listen to music about murder. Okay, read a Murder She Wrote series. Okay, because we want to use the to kill and be killed energy, and we want to bring it to a certain activity where it is, it's in a song, it's in an artwork, and not necessarily it's in your life. Okay, so it can be a song that you listen to, music that you listen to, go watch a musical around, I don't know, the murder of blah 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 blah. Okay, granted it's not going to be surprising in the sense that suddenly there's a murder in the then that can be a good way to plan ahead for this transit. And Uranus is going to be retrograde. It's something that you've touched on before, someplace that you've been to before. Think of how you dealt with that. What would you change about this? You can go through this transit. And this is culminating. So the good news that this is a point of release, a point of letting go. Okay, you're releasing something, you're letting go of something. This is the moon in full fruition. So it's the moon is full. From now, it only decreases. Okay, and that's for the Venus, the ruler here of the sun. As for the ruler of the moon, which is Mars, is slowly applying to square Pluto. Okay, as you can see, Mars is applying to conjunct Ketu, which means Mars, the ruler of the head of the quadrant, the point of the eclipse and this nation, the moon, is in a very, very fated. It's kind of like energy. There's a lot of crunched up energy somewhere, and so what this energy is going to do is more determined than undetermined. Okay, and people talk about momentum and so that's the kind of stuff. What the Mars Pluto does in hard aspect, it increases drive, passion, and transformation, but through crisis. In a crisis aspect where you can't really, for the opposition, it's kind of like you see both sides of the equation. You see the one and the opposition. For the inconjunct, it's like oil and water, which is also quite complicated. But for the square, it's just this thing, this tension that you can't resolve. And so as a transit, it can be quite a potent tragedy, yes, tragedy, unfortunately. And Mars in Libra is not strong, but Mars in Libra is also an action of legislation, an action of bringing balance, of trying to bring balance to action. Yes, if we talk about diplomacy and war, as war is the continuation of diplomacy in other means, it can also be Mars in Libra. Mars in Libra might not go into conflict. Okay, it might teeter-tatter. If I'm not mistaken, Switzerland has Mars in Libra. So Switzerland is not entering a conflict. Okay, it just takes everybody's money. Doesn't care if you're a Holocaust survivor or you are a Nazi dictator. Okay, both of you, we will hide your money. There's no problem, we will hide your money, but don't ask for your money back. It's hidden with us. What money? This is Switzerland. Okay? So while Mars in Libra is not conflictual, it is also quite potent in its own way. It can be an act of balance through finances. It can be an act of, but it can as well be the continuation of diplomacy by other means. Okay, Mars in Libra does not mean you will not have armed conflict per se. Okay, it can be the cessation of diplomacy. Okay, the cessation of diplomatic means to solve an equation. The cessation of using trade to solve the equation. Now, because both Libra and Mars have together estates, money, banking, then you can understand the means in which Mars Libra can use. Okay? So you would say, oh, this Mars is in detriment. It's not. It's fallen at the scales. This is not an impotent Mars. Just like Mars in Cancer, it's not at all an impotent Mars. Okay? If you look at Jean-Claude Van Damme, he had Mars in Cancer. Would you say that this person cannot do things athletically with his body, cannot give a kick, cannot? No. Okay. So it's not a martial artist that you would want to that you would want to quarrel with. Okay. And so yes, it's a fallen Mars, but it's not necessarily a person whose Martian abilities are fallen. Not at all, even. Mars in Libra is the same. Okay, it's not directly Martian, but it definitely can also mean the cessation of diplomacy as means to solve a conflict. Mars is severing ties. Mars is ending something. Mars is cutting cords. Okay? So I want you to keep this also in mind, because we seem to forget this. And so the ruler of this lunation is applying to Ketu. This is ruled by Venus. Where is Venus? 22nd degree. Yes, this Mars can be lethal. This Mars can absolutely be lethal. And again, when I say this on a mundane way. The way that every person might be affected is different, but it can simply be, let's say, you want to go to the bank to fix in your documents, okay? And then, what do we have here? In retrogression, Mercury is already direct. Jupiter retrogression, I don't know. Jupiter retrogression, okay? Then, no, Jupiter is not a good example because it's also ruled by Venus. Never mind. You want to go to the bank to fix some diplomatic thing. Saturn is retrograde. And so there is a restriction. They close the street where that bank is. And you say, verdammt, I need to go in there. But they close the street because they are having constructions, because there was a leak of the plumbing. Okay, Neptune, Pluto. Okay, and you're like, oh, this plumbing, these constructions, every day they close the street. But lo and behold, regardless of this closing of the street where your bank is, you can't access there, somebody enters this bank and robs this bank, killing people, everybody who was in the bank. You couldn't go there. Okay? It can be such culmination. Okay? But because it's a culminating of a cycle, there can be some way that it's more about not being able to do something, although it can be, but more like oh, I can't go to this bank. I can't. I will look it up. I will go on the internet. Mercury direct. Okay, I will go on the internet. I'll fix that on the internet. Everything you have to go online. I don't like doing this, but I'll do this for this one thing. And then you find out somebody money in that bank. Mars Ketu, ruled by Venus on the 22nd, square in Uranus. And maybe there's a kind of like the protests that are violent going on around central banks somewhere. Okay, the cessation of certain banking system. Or calling off, coinage, and that brings kind of like these rebellions. It's very fated. And Mars applying to square Pluto, just this transformative action. The ruler of Mars, Venus, to 22 square in Uranus, that is explosive and deadly. Okay, it doesn't mean that you or your loved ones are involved with this. Okay, I want you to understand, and I give you these very concrete, elaborated cases so that you can understand. And even this is extreme. Okay, you might hear about this on the news. Will it not affect you personally? It's very likely because Mars and Venus are involved, and they're ruling our sisters, our brothers, our connections, our finances, our estates, our properties, our beauty, our artifacts, or things that we value. So there are those things. I'm not going to give the Trifon like thingy. I'm going to leave it to Trifon because I'm sure Trifon is going to do it fantastically. And he always tells this and that type of people can be healed, this and that we might lose some, but because this is on the 22nd degree, this can be assassination. And I'm like, I don't know why, like it's I don't know, it's just like, what value does it give to you? And if you want that kind of stuff, there is an excellent astrologer that does this, is Trifon. So I'm waiting for the Trifon. My friends, we used to have this ceremony of watching Trifon. We had to be in a very particular mood of watching Trifon by Lada. It was a great astrologer, so also love her dearly. So yeah, that is the culmination of September. So we had the lunation, the new moon, the 15th, and the full moon, that is Aries. And so neither of those is particularly jolly and easy. And because of this, I want to try and look for more juice points this month. And immediately when I think about what are the joyous points in this month, then I immediately think, okay, when is the moon in a better position? So we start September 1 with the moon in Aries, when we know that Mars is in Libra. It's probably not where we're looking for, Then September 3rd, the moon enters Taurus, which is a point of exaltation. Now we know that Taurus is problematic right now. The ingress is the moon separating from Rahu. The times of the moon Rahu going to excite states as well. Okay, moon Rahu is where you want to devour the world, go for it, you want to do something, but that can be also a bit excessive, because Rahu is excess and Ketu is the purging of excess. And so this moon is ingress to Taurus. While it separates from the square to Pluto, it's going to slowly arrive at Jupiter, squaring Venus that is already direct, and Uranus is not retrograde. So September 3rd is going to be September 3rd And right before Jupiter is going retrograde, this is going to be a moment of grace where the moon is in Taurus, not on the ingress. On the ingress, it's still separating from a square to Pluto. Don't say, but surely you said on the ingress, it's still annoying. But there are a couple of hours of grace between September 3rd and September 4th that we can say we can relax a little. So schedule doing something nice there. Schedule free time there if you can. And then we're gonna have, well, let's look at this moon in Gemini. Moon in Gemini, okay. Upon the ingress, what do we remember that we have even without looking at charts? And we have avid watchers of my views. You can write in the comments below. What do we have in 0 degree Gemini right now? What asteroid? Sedna. Okay, so we know that moon ingressing into Sedna, this is your time to pay for somebody for public transportation, to donate money to children that run out of home, to children themselves, to raise awareness regarding children that left a violent home or that got betrayed, or child trafficking. This is your time to bring in the Sedna charity all the time. But this is where you want to give extra thought to this. And so you must understand this is not our point of grace necessarily. It's just we know that this is happening. And so the moon will be in Gemini. It is ruled by retrograde Mercury in Virgo. So this is not where we look for our grace moments. Now let's look at the moon in Cancer. Moon in Cancer is moon at its home sign. Now what do we have here in Cancer? After the moon separates from this square to Neptune, which is beginning at the end of Gemini, we're going to have a bit of a moment of grace where the moon is also separating from a trine with Saturn. Okay, a trine in Saturn is more sombre emotion, more resilient. It's not flamboyant, it's not ooey gooey, happy, jolly, but it can be more resilient. It can be that necessary criticism arrives, but you are more accepting and tolerant and resilient when it comes. Or structure, something that is actually, when it's a decreasing moon, because you're not building something new, but you might be receiving feedback, kind of a feedback loop from the universe or from actual people. And this moon is going to be relatively okayish, and then it's going to, in the middle decan of Cancer, it is going to sextile Jupiter and Venus. And yes, it's going to somewhat square this, sextile Jupiter and Mercury even. Okay? And so this is another moment of grace. Yes, there is going to be a square around the end of the first phase, and the bit of the beginning of the middle phase is going to be a square with Mars. And we know that Mars is like a blade. It's like, and the moon is our safety net. The moon is a cuddle. It is kind of like Mars is doing things by means of action, speed, passion. The moon is what just wants to cuddle. And so when they are in square relations, this is not the best. And so in our moments of grace in Cancer, they are rather limited, but when they are still there, there is this lovely sextile to Jupiter. Although Jupiter is retrograde, it is still a calmer moment this month. This happens on September 8th. Again, it's not an election. Don't consecrate a talisman on this day, but it is a bit of a calmer, slower thingy moment in time. Towards the end of Cancer, unfortunately, we meet the opposition to Pluto again. It's that time of the year, you know, when the moon is hitting the Pluto opposition, you already know what happens in your life and you can already plan for it by now, probably. You can either pull up your serious talismans or pull up your I would actually go for Andromeda this time. The last time um, I went for Procyon, and as I was drawing Procyon, it was kind of cute. I was drawing kind of like a fractal of Procyon, and then I was interfered by a spirit that drew one thing on like the opposite and said variant. And indeed, it is Procyon is squaring Aries, which is ruling the variant types of poisoning. So that is the way I was aware of this, and it's kind of like, okay, let's call Andromeda as well, because Andromeda is now the constellation where Aries is, and it's always benefic to work with it. Now let's see more moments of grace that we can have here. So let's look at the moon in Leo, and I know that moon in Leo is not what we opt for usually, but as the moon is separating here from the Pluto opposition, it's going to arrive at Venus direct in Leo, which is squaring Jupiter. Now, I'm not so concerned. Right now, Venus is squaring Jupiter as well. I'm not so concerned about Venus squaring Jupiter. Okay, it's extravagant. You might want to watch your sweet tooth, and you might want to watch your sweet wallet. But if you hold on to your dear cash, the moon figure in this aspect can actually be fun, flamboyant, dramatic, joyous, humorous even, and not so much suffering as you expect. So this is a moment, guys, this is happening on September 11th, the last hours of September 10th, before Uranus enters the 22nd degree. Oh shit. Okay, Uranus is still going to be on the 22nd degree, but within this we have these hours of grace on September 11, which can go weird. So I can't guarantee it's going to be graceful September 11, but it has the potential to at least have a comic relief or a jolly time with the people, a happy conversation. It's kind of a relief from the excess, from the conflict, from whatnot. So yeah, you want to make sure you tend into that. Of course, Mercury, the moon entering Virgo is not anywhere near we're going to find solace and peace. Moon in Libra, let's see, this is an interesting thingy. Moon in Libra is still Venus ruled. It's not exalted in any way, shape, or form. There's not detriment either, per se. Now, as the moon enters Libra, the sun is going to be on the 22nd degree of Virgo, applying to oppose Neptune. But moon ingressing into Libra, as it separates from the opposition to Neptune, it also separates from trining Pluto and trining Uranus. But it does square Sedna. Is it squaring Sedna? No, it trines Sedna. Oh, well, I wouldn't say this is a moment of grace. It's a moment of depth, definitely. Of course, when the moon will conjunct Mars, it's not your happy jolly time. And of course, when the moon will conjunct Ketu is not where we look for grace. And absolutely, we are not looking forward to the moon in Scorpio. So let's try and see what's up next. Moon in Sagittarius. So let's take a look at what happens when the moon ingresses into Sagittarius. Well, it no longer is really tightly opposes Uranus. But if you work with the wide orb, it does apply to square Saturn. So we want it into the middle decan, which means it will trine Venus and Jupiter. Square Mercury, direct, it's already a direct Mercury, and sextile Mars. Okay, September 21st is a moment of grace. Okay. Not only is it the moment of grace, it's more we can actually enjoy something. You can have a deep insight, a reflection, because it's ruled by Jupiter. It's also ruling Antares. I wouldn't do necessarily Antares work with there. If you absolutely must use Antares not to consecrate a talisman because of the square by sign to Saturn, then you absolutely can. There are going to be pitfalls. Okay, I remember in particular when somebody used the last election, an election with Antares to kind of say something, to pave something in their career, and it was square in Saturn. They were making some points and they were creating some antagonism by having an outdated Saturn perception on skin color and status. I'm not going to say it's not putting this person in the spot, but it's kind of like it's a concrete case where if you absolutely must do it then, but it's going to have some pitfalls. Okay, so you're going to have some non-PC sayings around skin color, outdated stigmas, or sort of like, whatever, because Saturn, it rules homeless people, it rules skin color, so it's kind of like there is an X such that X is homeless and X is a single woman that went out of violence and X has white skin color, and so on and so forth. So you know what I'm saying. Other than that, it is a moment of grace to have a more free sense of, like, my safety resides in being free, is very much moon in Sagittarius. Okay, I am free being, I am safe being free. I am safe being free. It is safe to be free. Okay, this is a big moment. And you know what? Harvest on this. I am safe being free. And it's a growing moon. Keep this mantra. Keep this mantra. Remind to yourself, write it and put this as a memory that's coming up on the 20th of September, the 21st of September. I am safe being free. Okay? Because moon is safety and Sagittarius is the desire to be free. I'm safe being me. I'm safe being free. That's a great moment in time that we do have. It is safe to showcast me as I am. Okay? And it's great because it's coming on Jupiter retrograde. So how about stealing the faith that I am safe being free? It is safe to be free. It is safe to freely. It is safe. I'm safe traveling for leisure. Okay, Jupiter, Taurus, Jupiter traveling, Taurus, the sensual pleasure, enjoying life. Okay, and so on. There's many great things that we can do with this that are not talismanic rituals, but are enjoying the time. So this is a great moment of grace to look into, and you want to either get the ascendant in Pisces, where you get Jupiter in the third house, It's not the best house, but you know, to get it in the fourth, you would, it's Saturn ascendant is not preferred. And if you do it with ascendant Jupiter in ascendant Sagittarius, you get Jupiter to be on the sixth, which is annoying. So that's the pitfall of this. But other than that, you can do it with this one. You can do it with ascendant Cancer, and then you get Jupiter on and you get Jupiter also not ruling the ascendant. You get the moon ruling the ascendant. This is the best, but it depends where you are. So you can find some elections on this to, if you just have absolutely must manifest there, if you absolutely must take action there, if you absolutely must do something meaningful there, if you can go on a vacay, if you can spend some luxury time in a luxury place relative to your means, if you can schedule rethinking, reshaping your mindset by performative action, okay? And the Mars in Libra can actually be the act of like painting with an agenda, or doing something artistic with an agenda. This is good stuff. There's good stuff you can do there. So yeah, those are the lunation, the higher kind of places. Then of course we get to Saturn ruled moon. If we look at Aquarius, where is the lesser Saturn? It's like, it's not the lesser Saturn, it's actually not the opposite, but it's the Saturn that has more openness to it because it's outside of the structure. It's still dogmatic, but outside the structure. And what will this moon be doing? It will oppose Venus in the middle and decan. It will sextile Chiron. So this is a moment where we can reflect and bring in some stuff, and it will trine Mars. So this is a more out of the structure kind of structuring. If you have to restructure your life and build something, kind of like Saturn, the architecture, that is that is the way that this Saturn operates. But now Saturn is in Pisces retrograde. So if you have to structure your journey or structure your travel or do something anyway, it's going to have a different structure, very structured but different type of plan. This may be some time where around the moon, after it separates from Pluto, you're going to have a chance to do that. Do remember that this moon will at the end decan of Aquarius square Uranus. So the first two phases are probably safe to work with, and you can get good results. Okay, it's a more architecture thingy, and I took the architecture from online magician. They write, those people that write their usernames with very, like, with multiple letters, and I don't know how to quote and give credit to that. Okay. So there is a magician that did a particular Saturn the architecture in Aquarius talisman, which I think is sold out. But this is where I get to think about Saturn like the architecture, and I want to give the credit. And I don't want to try and look for it right now because I don't know what is open in my pages, okay? And I'm trying to save myself the embarrassment. And the last we have is Moon in Pisces. Now, Moon in Pisces is not in any way exalted, but it is in a water sign. And of course, we don't want the Moon as a conjunct Saturn, okay? This is where ship drowns. So that's not our moment of grace. And that's already the 27th of September, so we're only gonna have like the 28th, and the moon will be opposing Mercury in Virgo. That it's in its shade period. Okay, so Mercury is in Virgo. It's outside of the fact that the moon opposing it will be ruled by retrograde Jupiter. But if you get the ascendant on like Gemini, I do not outrule the possibility that you can do a Mercury Virgo talisman. Okay? I have not tried this. I'm not a trained magician. And I'm not a trained astrologer, by the way, either. I'm learning, training myself with whatever I have available. So I'm a very good astrologer, but I can't say that I'm an expert magician. Okay? I feel incredibly comfortable with charging for a reading. I do not feel so incredibly comfortable with telling you, do this talisman on that date, but I am learning, and so I'm saying you're gonna have to double check me, and you're gonna have to learn magic by yourself regardless of me. But this is a place where this moon could, okay, it's not the best. Okay, we definitely don't want the ascendant or the hour or the day to be on Jupiter, but we absolutely do want to capture Mercury in Virgo if we can. It's the middle phase of Virgo. It's kind of maybe a different phase. Mercury Virgo. So Mercury Virgo, and Mercury is in its shade period. Okay, this is also important to understand. I think it is visible here. So Mercury Virgo. Mercury Virgo is when you want to get to the detail, to write the book. You can look at Sphere and sundry Mercury Virgo talismans that are going to give you the reading of what Mercury Virgo does. I think you engrave a frog on something. It is very good where you need to get to the details, to work meticulously, but it's also ruling humor. So and it has kind of like an amphetamines effect on you. So that is what you can expect from that. It's a wonderful thing to work with, as long as you don't have to have a conversation where you could be a bit too critical and nitpicky, Virgo-ish. Okay, so you want the good aspect of the Virgo-ish and not the nitpicker, but you can also be quite funny, and you can enjoy humor and have humor around you. So you can read the write-up of Caitlin Koppock for the Sphere and Sundry Mercury Virgo. I might be trying to do something with this. This is also a growing moon. It's going to be a growing moon. It's an almost full moon. But it's in the shade of an eclipse moon. But there can be an election here. It's a growing moon. Mercury is in Virgo, unafflicted. And if you can get the ascendant on Gemini, then you're better off. Like, you can get the ascendant on Virgo, but I'd prefer it. Like, I'd prefer Mercury in the 10th house, I think, to the first. Okay, but maybe both can be interesting. You want to avoid the Pisces or Sagittarius ascendant with this one, because Jupiter is retrograde, and you do want to keep it angular. Okay, if you go for you don't want to get it on a Mars. That would be on the 11th, which is also good, but it's a Mars, which is like, you don't want, definitely not to begin with Mars on the ascendant, and Mars is in Libra, is in detriment. Maybe ascendant Leo, but Sun is falling in Libra, so on. Yeah, but ascendant Mercury rule, ascendant either Virgo or Gemini. If you can get it, fine. If you cannot get it, fine. But this is where I would try to harvest. If I have to harvest, if I want to harvest for an election, this is where I would look for the harvesting. And we want the moon applying. Okay, so we want the moon before 16 degrees Pisces, and to see what the window of opportunity there. I'm not going to try and find the election because I don't know where you live, and we would have to adjust the location, and it could be completely different ascendant and houses. So that's the end of it. That's the end of it. Okay, we are in 2 hours, and we made September astrology with the moon. So a bit about ingresses. Let's look. So ingresses. The sun will enter Libra at September 23rd. Yeah, Mercury is in Virgo the entire time. Venus is in Leo the entire time. Mars is in Libra the entire time. And this is what we have. We have an ingress of the sun. Lilith is direct the entire time, and Aries is retrograde the entire time. If you are concerned, this is one more thing. If you are concerned about, let's just pick a chart about the poisoning that we are having. Okay, so the recent one that affect the intestines and give you diarrhea and kind of stuff like that. Or any of the variants of that poisoning that went viral and were offered solutions that are questionable and even lethal. So if you're worried about variants or high risk potential stuff, what you need to look at is the asteroid called Aries. And Aries is very much ruling of these poisoning viruses and variants and so on and so forth. Aries is currently, and she's moving very, very slowly, 500 years takes to surround the zodiacs. We understand it's quite a while. Moon takes 28 days. So Aries is in 25 degrees retrograde in Aries. What you need to be worried about when the moon is in 25 degrees Aries. Okay, so the moon in Aries, we begin the moon in Aries. So September 2nd and 3rd are more your points of concern, where there can be a variant, where there can be something around this. Okay, some development is conjunction. The moon is triggering just these areas on the retrograde. If you have something around this phase, the last phase of Aries, ascendant, sun or moon, or any personal planet, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and we said ascendant, sun and moon, to lesser degree Jupiter and Saturn, then yes, it can be a risk. If it is in your first house, if this is your ascendant, you are at risk. Okay, so whatever precautions, if something is fated, it's fated, but it doesn't have. If it's not in the book, don't write it in there. Then, and before you try to take precautions in the form of injections, please do the most research that you can. You must understand Aries is ruling corruption, okay, and corruption by organizations and the systems. So you must understand who is also organization, and this is why I would tell you to look, check those who check the data double times before you do such a thing. So another angle to Aries is the square, and this is around the last decan of Cancer, where the moon will also oppose Pluto. And if you have ascendant, sun or moon or any personal planet in this decan, yes, you are at risk of either you being affected with here, Aries is your 10th house, it can be your boss is affected. But if, let's say, you have the moon there and the ascendant, so the moon, the ruler of the ascendant, you can be affected. Yeah, it means that Aries is a hard aspect in you, okay? And so yes, you could be affected by the variant. You already know this, it has been in a while, so you need to take extra precaution. And again, I would look 10 times before I would do another injection of anything, because like I said, Aries rules corruption, and she rules the poisoning in the sign of Aries is ruled by Mars, poisoning, and opposition Pluto is poisoning by structures that are hierarchical. Okay, so your remedy has to come from somewhere else. Okay? Maybe working with Procyon will give you more of an understanding of what is going on. And the other concerning aspect, so we have the inconjunct, which is the last decan of Virgo. And inconjunct is like oil and water, so it can actually be that somebody next to you has those variants, okay, and you go across and you're unaffected by this. Okay, it can be like this, but the inconjunct is also a hard aspect, so it can kind of mean that you're trying to do something in your Virgo house, but you're affected by this variant, and poof, that has to be sacrificed in favor of your health. Again, be cautious. Last decan of Libra. This is the most concerning one, because here Ketu is on, if it's your ascendant, is on your ascendant, and what you have opposing it is Aries. This means that this Trojan horse of a variant can be, right now in particular, very close to you, okay, or affecting your partner, or affecting you. And you know that this is Ketu here, I don't have to tell you. You're the one who needs to take the most precautions. To tell you that I know, I don't know. Ketu, it rules purging, so it rules healing, you know, it rules, it's a purgatory aspect. Now the intestines, if it is ascendant for you, the intestines, or sun is 12th house from your sun. So think about 12, what does it mean to have 12th house from your sun? What does it mean? And I don't want to say, because I don't want to begin, that they can be too personal. But what does it mean to have 12th house from your ascendant? Your intestine health has to do with your mental health. It has to do with spiritual retreat. It has to do with what you don't know, with something that you're addicted to. Okay, and so it can be you get this variant and it's almost lethal, so you must make a certain change to the patterns of your eating, and actually instead of being killed, your life is saved, and you would not deal with this addiction to certain foods that harm your intestines if not for this variant. Okay? This is also Ketu. You're meant to release this addiction, and now it happens through being sick and having your intestines affected, and you discover the effect of the intestines and the health, how it affects you, and now it's like you're rooting out these addictions, these patterns, these physical and psychological patterns that you didn't even know that you have, it. Poof, you move with the heck out of your life. This can be. Can it be lethal? In all of the cases, both of all of the hard aspects can be lethal. Does Ketu add to the lethality? Of course it does. Okay, I'm not going to gaslight you, but it can also be those other things. So if it's not in the books for you, okay, it probably means that if you get it, or if your partner gets it, it's more a crisis that meant to give you to have a bit of enlightenment. Maybe you think, oh, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, and then you get the variant and you learn Okay, it can be something like this. So then up next is the inconjunct from Scorpio, which is the last degrees of Scorpio. So if you have ascendant, sun, or moon, or the personal planets on the last degrees of Scorpio, especially ascendant, it can mean that either it's like oil and water, you cross somebody, or somebody in your life, and this can be employ a pet. Okay, granted that the pet is okay. Somebody in your life has this, you work together, you're this, but it's like oil and water, you don't catch this. Or I don't know, you wanted to start a new health regimen, but there goes the variant, and now you have to sacrifice, like, I don't know, you wanted to go swimming, and there goes the variant. Mountain climbing, I don't know, depending on where your Mars is. And so it can also be like the other way around, where you have to sacrifice, your health is sacrificed in favor of this verstinkene poison. And that is, because it's the sixth house, can be someone tries to poison you as well, so you have to be cautious about this. But granted that it's not something like this, then this is where you need to be extra cautious, and be extra cautious about the shots too, please. Okay. Another square that we have is, of course, from the end of Capricorn, so the end decan of Capricorn. And yeah, this can also mean for you that when the moon is going through this, through your ascendant, it means that you might again be subjected to the verstinkende poisoning, and this is where you want to be extra cautious. And so those are the times. So let's go to those signs. Okay, let's go to those signs, and we look at the moon, and I'll tell you where are the times that you want to be cautious. And those are when the moon, or how did I get here? September, please. Thank you. When the moon ingresses into Aries of September 2, okay? Particularly when the moon is in Aries, right? Particularly if you have ascendant, sun and moon in Aries, but not only. September, this is going to be September 9, and somewhat of September 10. When the moon is in the last decan of Cancer. Ascendant, sun and moon Cancers. Okay? It's been ongoing, now the moon is triggering it. And you also have to be cautious on September 2. Right? Because the moon is going to trigger it from Aries, then it's going to trigger it from your ascendant. Both points are points of concern. So, again, I don't know to tell you what do you do. Okay? Aries is on Andromeda. Maybe Andromeda can work, but you have to understand, I'm not trained in giving you talismans that are for sure going to work. Okay? It's not my profession. I'm very comfortable with giving you a reading. I'm not comfortable with telling you for sure walk with Andromeda is going to, maybe Andromeda is going to bring in Aries for you. Okay? So I don't know. And if you are in this Cancer phase, then you're close to Procyon. Okay, Procyon is wonderful, but Procyon is squaring Aries now, and is opposing Pluto. So again, maybe it will be protective. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, I give you an example of what happened when I worked with Procyon. I became aware of the variance in Aries. So yeah, next up that we our point of concern. So we said September. It's going to be September 14 is the inconjunct, and this, if you are ascendant Virgo, is more of the concern, or ascendant Aries, so these are more points of concern. Ascendant Libra, If you are, this is September 17 for you. Okay, Ascendant Libra, September 17. And of course, Ascendant Libra is going to trigger the square also to the ascendants of Cancer and Capricorn. And so when the moon is in Libra, September 17, then Cancer, Aries, Libra, Capricorn, all of you, okay, want to be taking the precautions, okay? If it is an environment for you to be sick, you will be sick, and you know what? It's not necessarily a bad thing, okay? Because there is a holistic, what we call sickness is the body telling us something, okay? It doesn't mean that you're going to die. It can simply mean that you're going to unroot something in your life that's gone forever, be transformed. Everything is very transformative. And she's liberating, but this is crisis, okay? And this is poison. Or you might be having certain awareness that kind of like is important for you to have. But if it's not in the books for you, don't write it in the books, okay? And this is September 17 as well. The next up is September 19, and to someone September 20 was the end of Scorpius, the in conjunct. And then whether you're Aries or Scorpio, you want to be aware. And for you, this may be nothing, or this may be like you have to really sacrifice what you wanted to do with your body right now, because poof, this variant thing is going on. It doesn't have to be lethal, but it's just something to be aware of. September 24th, which is the end of Capricorn. Then again, the entire cardinal axis, okay? Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and Aries. It's like a mini neural network. Poof, all lighting up. Okay, all of you guys. Okay, so those are the dates. Okay, I'm going to repeat them again. September 2, September 9, and to somewhat 10. September 14, 17, 19, and September 24th. Those are the conspicuous days where, unto summer 25, where you want to take whatever precautions work for you. So maybe you want to be in a place there's like a forest, if it's accessible to you. Maybe you want to avoid contacting, like fluid, or going to a public restroom, or if you don't have to travel in public transportation, if you don't have to work where there are people, okay, maybe take a retreat. And again, if it has to meet you, it will meet you, and it's not necessarily meaning that something bad. Okay, maybe you are grieving, but intestines, maybe stress is affecting you, and you get sick with your intestines, but you actually get to rest. You get sick, and then you vomit and stuff and diarrhea, but you also get to rest. So there are many things to do it, but those are the precautions that you can take, that I can tell you are relatively safe. Okay, to not be around people, to not be around food. If you're eating food or eating at restaurant, do not go to a restaurant on that particular day. Not drive public transportation on that particular day. Go to travel where there's no so much people, like a forest or a place that is nicer for you. This is good. This is good. This is safe. This is safe. Don't put anything in your body that you don't know. And this also gives you the distancing that you need from pathogens or whatever you're concerned about. And if it's something that is ingestible, so you want to avoid this as much as you can. And that is what I can say is probably going to be useful. Now, of course, some of you cannot avoid certain things. believe me, if it is not for you, if it is not fated for you to get sick, um, probably it's not going to happen to you. It's going to be, um, yeah. But if, and you know what, it can be not sickness, it can be something else with Aries. Aries is discord. Aries is Trojan horses. Aries is ideological hacking. Aries is all those things. So you are maybe dealing with some Aries figure in your life right now, or you are the Aries figure if it's Aries ascendant, and so it might not be the variant. But those are the dates where you want to stay in check and keep in mind the things. So it's not that there isn't, like, I could go for 8 hours about just this month. It's a stuffy month. It has a lot, and all of this a lot is happening while we are preparing for the eclipse and going over like nearly every aspect in our life, because the planets, not just the houses and the signs, the planets are also ruling aspects in our life. So our worldview, our values, our trade, our children, our sisters and brothers, our partners, our the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times, in terms of everything of it. It's just this one of these months. It's not for nothing that the entire astrological community has been talking about this. And again, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I really need a reading. And you're not wrong. The thing with scheduling readings in general at this time is that there may be delays, there may be something not working. You might be unappointable. I'm not going to charge you unless you made donation, then of course, like, we're going to reschedule, but I'm not going to charge you for canceling on this time, because obviously something can pop up, and also I might schedule on Monday and then suddenly something happens. So this is something that's a part of this retrogression. But when you do get the reading, then the things that need to come up will be dredged up. And it's a great month to schedule a reading. My books are open, okay? And so what type of readings do I give? I look at your natal chart and look at what's coming for you, not just at the month of September. So a good scope of time is what is up for this year and this eclipse cycle, okay? What does it mean to have the eclipses on Libra and Aries for you? Okay. What does it mean to have all these outer planets to inner planets for you? What is triggered by you? How are you in relation to the spirit of the times? Okay, outer planets to inner planets, both natally and in transit. Okay. What house is perfected for you if you have your ascendant? What house is perfected for you? What field of life is more accentuated this year that you're going to pay attention to? And you're going to see it coming up. That things are going to pop up for you. Okay, those are things we can look at. We can take a look at your solar return as well. And of course, whichever questions that you have that I can answer with these. So, and the way that you pay me for a reading is either you donate, you go onto my Twitter, it's Tali Share, Tali with I, Share with double E, and there are two families that I keep retweeting that they need assistance with housing. If you donate to them at least $300, I give you free reading. All you have to do is show me that you donated to them and that they got the money. And already this is remediation for Saturn, for Mercury. It's remediation in the form of charity, okay? For Saturn, for Mercury, as well as for the Moon. So yeah, that's something you can do. Another way that you can get a reading with me is that you schedule with me. My email is made to lovemagic1@gmail.com, like the Nick Drake song, and I know I need to change that. But you can write me to schedule a reading, and I can tell you of certain talismans or courses. For example, rectification course. I don't want to do rectification. And you can decide on buying one of these products for me as you desire. There's also various abilities to pay, so some things are more cheaper than others. If you can't afford like $300, then there's things that are cost less, maybe $100. And I can get you can order these for me, and then I give you a reading. So this is more simple, and that allows me to give back to the communities and to grow my skill, to grow my value for you without having international taxation that I don't know this animal on my back, and with the changing coins that tomorrow they can say call out all the coins, poof, all the money gone. So yeah, those options are open for you. Again, there maybe you might need to cancel, I might need to go. We're gonna have to be extra flexible, but it's worth the time. If it is meant for you, then you will get the reading. So yeah, you can subscribe to my channel and click the bell if you're not subscribed to get more forecasts. You can absolutely comment to me with topics that you want me to discuss about. You can see I talk about everything under the light of the sun and the light of the lack of the sun, so the eclipses too. But when you give me feedback, I want you to talk about this, I want you to talk about this, I do take requests. I do study lives with me, so even if I don't know, I will study live, and there are great episodes that I did with our study life with me. Some of them thanks to your requests. So yes, I do have a Patreon somewhere. I have a PayPal. I don't know how this international taxation works. If you send me money on PayPal, I can basically buy a talisman with it, or I can buy a course of a fellow astrologer with it, kind of give back to the community and the people that I learned from. Even if I learned like self-taught, I use the free education that is provided and the courses that I got that I learned by myself. But that is a way for me to kind of like give back. So you can, if you don't want a reading, for you don't feel like you need like a reading and you just want to support my channel, then you can try to transfer. The PayPal is made to love magic1 strudel gmail.com, and granted that I can just like take this money and put it, and if you transfer this, then do it like a donation to a person, because this way I can just transfer it to buy courses or support the people that I support their housing. Maybe I can transfer this cash to them by PayPal if they accept PayPal, and that's another way to make a contribution. So those are the ways you can, if you like, support this channel. We are 2.5 hours in, so I will take the time and say yes, September is very stuffy, and we haven't even looked at the donations in depth with the asteroids and the fixed stars, and we haven't even looked at every retrograde and the 12th house, 12th ascendant. Yes, I try to give you the most important stuff that is relevant to you, because otherwise we would be spending an entire day here. There may be more episodes. If you tell me what do you think is most important to talk about, from what I said, what would you like me to tell about in length? Would you like hard aspects to outer planets and inner planets, hard aspects in this month? I can absolutely do kind of an in-depth zoom in episode, and so I do take requests. And well, let's just endure September. There are moments of grace, okay? There are moments of grace. I told you when the moments of grace are, and this also is something kind of to keep in mind, especially when the moon is in the middle decan of Sagittarius. It's going to be one of those relief, but also dramatic relief, if that makes sense. So yes, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for shares. You can share this video with people who are nice and kind and gracious and like this topic.
And yeah, I'll see you in my next episode. Bye bye. Happy September.